G'day. Today's episode is about circlips, these things, or rather the grooves for them. Now, previously I've hand ground tools for these things and it's never really worked all that well, because of handshake and movement. The corners get rounded and all that sort of thing. So I thought I'm going to do something about that. And so in this episode I design up a little jig to help grind the tool, and then I make up a holder to hold the tool. And so that's what I used for this, and it seems to work really nicely. So I'm very pleased with it. I thought I'll share. There's some drawings in here somewhere if you want to make your own. Before I get stuck into making up the tool, I thought I'd just mention what circlips are for those of you who don't know. They're a spring clip, and they put on grooves on shafts typically, or inside bores, to retain things. So here's one. These are called E clips because they've got a passing resemblance to an E, but that's stopping that shaft going out that way. Most of us probably have seen these around the place. These are an assortment of clips. Typically you get external clips, so they've got the ears on the outside. You'll also get internal clips with ears on the inside, and then things like E-clips, and there's these sorts of things as well, although they usually don't require a groove. But that's what we're doing, and so the groove is precisely defined, and it's a matter of grinding a tool that will cut that groove, not round the corners, not wobble all over the place and all the rest of it. And so today I've managed to do that. This is basically what I'm trying to make at the moment. This has been taken out of a piece of bar stock, and so that's just the radius. That'll be machined away. There is a great temptation to start down here and just sort of do the shank for the lathe tool as the first thing, but I'd like to hang on to that, and if I have a reduced shank there it might make things difficult. May not, but it's probably easier to do the rest of the features here and then come back and do this. So I've put a what would you call it, a rebate I guess, in there, and that's going to be the shelf that all this sort of thing sits on. I think I'll next do a couple of chamfers and then probably look at putting the groove in and the tapped hole last of all. Change of plans occasioned by me doing a little bit more thinking. I've put the hole in there. I've drilled that M5 or diameter 5 for an M6 thread, which I'll put in later after I've finished everything else. I've also taken away the side there, and the reason for that is that I need to put that groove in there. And I worked out that if I have this material here, I'm going to cause myself a bit of problems with the cutting at this end. I could do it, but it just makes it a little bit easier and cleaner if I do this. So I'm going to go back to this fixture, so I can put that up like that, and then I can come in with a vertical cutter and put that groove in. Right now in the original footage, you were going to be reintroduced to this thing. But when I started editing, I discovered that footage was unusable. So as a result, the part that I was going to use this bit for has progressed to the finished state. So sorry about that. However, this thing was built some time ago to hold round stock. Okay, and then I could just come along with a slitting saw and put a keyway in. But on this part, I need to put in a groove at 45 degrees, and I can do that with an end mill. So what I've done is I've pulled this out, clamped to there, and then I can come in here and have a look, and you might, I can't recall, but you might see some footage of that. When I originally made this, I milled this out with might have been a horizontal cutter, I think. I didn't bother putting a groove in the bottom because it was only going to hold round stock. So what I've done is I've gone back and I've put just a notch, whatever you want to call it, down the bottom of the V groove, so that if the part has got a sharp corner and this groove wasn't quite sharp in the bottom, there's room for that corner to sit. So that gives me a nice location there. So this is how I put that in. Now I'm going to be using this again for doing the corresponding part, so you will get to see it. Here's my completed holder. I've tapped that M6 for a clamping screw, and I've got my V-groove in there. Some of you may be wondering why the V-groove. Well, there's a little bit of 1/8 tool steel, and that's going to go in there. There'll be a clamping strip that goes at the top. But what that means is I could come along and I could have that set up for a particular width groove. I could take that out and I can put that back in, and it's still going to be in the same spot. If I had that so it was flat, because of clearance, I might have a little bit of wobble there. Right? So it's giving me a much firmer part. I guess as a alternative too, I could put a bit of 1/8 round in there. Not that that worries me too much, because this gives me a nice depth of section that I can grind into other things. But next thing is the clamping cap. I've shaped my clamping blank to its pretty much final cross section. It's 4 thick there, 4.5 there with a 2mm step. And the idea behind that is that will clamp, that will sit on the work, and there'll be enough clearance underneath the screw to give a little bit of pressure. To hold that in there, I'm going to use a bit of rod. This is just a bit of brass, but it doesn't matter what it is. And I'm just going to put that in there and clamp that on that, and that'll clamp that in the bottom of that groove for me. I can then come in with a cutter and put my cut out there. Then I'll dock this to size, trim up the ends, all the other things you do, and I'll have my clamping piece. This is the finished clamping strip. Nothing terribly exciting about it. It's got that same V groove there. It's got a slight step there just so that this sits relatively flat. The location of this is done through the V, so it doesn't matter too much about the hole size or the sizing. It's located, so that's all good. But that gives me quite a rigid holder for a piece of square high-speed steel on the slant, and this is a 1/8 drill bit. I haven't got a bit of 1/8 rod, but as you can see, same sort of thing. Holds it quite nicely. Now, I guess some of you are now saying, well, that's great, you've got a holder for this stuff, but how are you going to sharpen it? Okay, we'll work on that. This is my sharpening block. Nothing terribly tricky about it. It's got 4 screws there to clamp the bit of stock into a V groove. I have put a saw slot in the bottom of the V groove because the corners on this are sharp and sharper than the milling cutter I used to do that. To put that groove in there, I just put that in the vise and ran along that way. I've also got a 2-degree slope here. It's not much, but it's going to give me a little bit of side relief when I grind. So basically I'm going to stick that in the surface grinder, grind the top off, and then stick it down on one side, grind the side down, stick it on the other side, grind the side down, and that should give me a cutter of the right width with a little bit of 2 degrees each side of side relief. And fingers crossed I'll be able to cut circlip grooves with that. So using this device to grind, I used a plastic rafter square, carpenter square, to get that all lined up, keep it square. I started out by doing the sides, and because of that 2-degree taper, it's narrower down the bottom than it is up the top there. I then flipped it over, and because these screws are flush or under flush with the surface here, I could sit that on there and then just grind the top off. Now, one thing to notice with this is that you need to have the gap there and there basically the same size, otherwise that'll put that top surface at a slight angle. But bit of measuring with a vernier or set of calipers, and you can get that pretty close. But I'm just going to finish grinding that top down just a little bit more, and then we'll take it over to the lathe and we'll see how that works. I've got a bit of 25 bar stock chucked up. Should be 25.4, but I'm having a bit of trouble finding that stuff these days. I've got my tool mounted up. It's on centre line, so should work. We'll have to see. I need to take this down to 0.94, so it has to come down around about 45 thou in diameter. Unfortunately, this grind, I wasn't being careful enough, and so I'm going to have to move along a couple of thou and then plunge in again to the same depth, I think, to get it so that the clip will fit. But we'll see how we go. Well, that works really well. Better than I thought it would be. I was able to come along 5 thou and just plunge in again, and I've got the circlip sitting down. This one's got a bit of a twist to it, unfortunately, but it sits in there, so, the tool itself works, and the grinding method seems to work too. So that's great. Thanks for watching. See you for the next one.